Hello, hello. This is my second time recording this because the first time didn't have audio, and hopefully this works. But I'm not gonna nag to you about that. So, the 9.11 patch for Valorant was announced 20 hours ago, and Neon got nerfed, but there was a second part to it. The ping system has been nerfed. Yes, the ping system. I just don't know how the ping system got nerfed, but we're about to take a look into what they said and the implications that we can actually see in a day-to-day Valorant gameplay basis, right? So this is generally covering or influencing literally every single rank in a way that has never been asked for by anyone in the entirety of the game. Sorry, I just woke up, so I might be stuttering a little. So, if you don't know already, let me show you guys. Whenever the attackers plant the spike on any of the good spots, I just showed you 4 plant locations, which are pretty good on this map. The win rate of the attackers after they put the spike, the attackers, becomes between 55 to 65%, which means that the attackers are much more likely to win the attack whenever they get the bomb down. Before they get the bomb down, their win rate is something closer to 45%, right? So, why exactly was this the case? Just covering that really quickly for people who are not aware of this. Valorant is a game based around the spike. The opponents, the defenders, can set up their teams or abilities so that they can have insane uh, counter plant synergies. Let me put this up here so you guys can see that properly. Right? They can have absolutely insane counter planting strategy. Almost every agent in the game has something that can kind of threaten the plant and make it a lot harder for the opponents to plant easily. Like I can just keep going and keep on showing you guys everything here and how every single agent is scary in one way or another, but I'm not gonna, but you get the idea. So the defenders have the advantage as long as the spike is not planted because they can simply play anti-plant. They can spam the spike if they can. They can threaten it with abilities. They can have trips. They can have strategies. They can have, there's a whole lot of tactics to be able to do it. And I'm not even talking about anything insane. I'm talking about like the moment, the moment someone taps the spike, as in, sorry, give me a second. Sorry. The moment someone tries to plant the spike, your team will now explode onto site, using all of their abilities to try and kill them. Right? You guys will explode onto site, dividing the entire enemy who have already fought someone who was on site. Let's have Jet back here. And all of these guys don't really have a chance. They just die because you let them tap the spike and then you ran out of the smokes to destroy them. This is typically what Valorant looks like, right? I'm going to explain it again just to make sure people know this. I mean, this is not really part of the point, but I'm just explaining why it's so good for attackers whenever they plant the spike and why it was so fair that the attackers would have 65 to, let's say, 70% maximum chance of winning, and why defenders had a very good odds to be able to counter that as long as they fought them before they planted the spike, and why the defender's priority was to plant the spike more than was to deny planting the spike over anything. If the attacker, let me get rid of this. So there's a spike right here. If the attackers tap the spike, let's even give them a fourth here. Let's put Killjoy. If the attackers try and plant the spike here, the defenders can actually jump out of the smokes and start fighting everyone and essentially trade up until the point where they win the round, right? This is typically what happens in a Valorant basis, which is very normal, right? Like all of this is actually very, very normal. And that's why it was actually fair for the attackers and defenders to have such varied win rates depending on the spike itself, and that's what actually made the entire game mode realistic. Now, the ping system has been nerfed, and I haven't said that yet. Let's actually get into that. Well, I'll just stay here. Imagine you planted the spike right here, and you are in main, and you wanted to ping the spike. Let's imagine this as the ping. You can no longer sit in main and spray the spike through a smoke reliably. Because any ping behind a wall or any ping on the minimap will no longer show behind the wall. Yes, it is weird. I might not be explaining it with full details, but you cannot see pings behind walls. You can ping all you want. These pings will not show. And if you, as a deadlock, wanted to ping where the spike is, let's say you were standing here looking at the spike, which was right here, and you wanted to look at it and ping, well, guess what? The ping lands right on the smoke. Yes, that kind of nerf. You can no longer spam objectives. Defensive smokes have now been absolutely insane, and in fact, smoking main has now become the new meta, because now this makes it nearly impossible for attackers to do anything, or smoking spike in a very protruding way like this, right? Where the opponents don't really have any sense of direction over where exactly you have planted, or they have planted. No ping really works anymore, and you cannot ping the spike anymore to actually play the game. And let's say you were here in mid, and you wanted to peek, but you don't have the perfect cursor placement. Well, enemies could be here, 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 here. You know, there were all sorts of angles that the enemies could hold in while you're peeking here. So normally you would ping. Let me just show you. You could ping the corners of the boxes, like right here, right here, right, oh, right here. I'll show you guys, and right here. And then you would peek. You would isolate the angles between this, between oh, between this. You peek further between this and this. You would isolate all of these angles individually and actually have a chance as an attacker to push into this uncharted territory. Now, this is no longer available. You cannot ping spike. You cannot ping elevations. And this is something also massive here. Let me actually make a defense. So, oh, it does not delete. How can I delete everything? Do I just refresh? No, sadly not. Well, let's just go find a different map. Well, honestly, Abyss is the best for this. Let me just quickly push everything out of the way. Just give me a second, folks. Ignore all the clutter now. Give me the eraser. Oh, my bad. Now, when you wanted to ping stuff as you were pushing into sight now, imagine you're the breach. You cannot ping the places, because normally you would want to ping the height elevations between the different places as you are peeking right here. Let me get the cone again. So you ping this. You ping that. You ping this. You would ping the height elevations because these crosshair placements are very unique, and sometimes there isn't much to really go off of when you're kind of trying to swing these. Now, I know you can, look at the remainder of the map and stuff, but honestly, that's just not really the best way of playing, or rather, it's not the most consistent whenever there was the ping system. Now, you need to spend more hours in deathmatch, more hours in a custom game, just essentially judging where the head height would be for all maps. And yeah, you can no longer use the ping system. And to put this in better perspective, let's see if we can get bind here. Or not bind, sunset. To put this in better perspective, the attacker win rate went from a very good 65% after planting the spike down to possibly 50% or 45%. Because the problem is, after you plant the spike, you cannot leave site anymore. You cannot play on bomb. Let me show you. Even in sunset, you plant the spike, you cannot leave the site anymore because you cannot spam the spike if they have Clove. And Clove, who is already a very high tiered solo queue agent, is now even stronger, guys. If a Clove dies on site, she can always smoke the spike whenever, you know, whenever something happens, and they can easily win the game. Or they can even smoke main, because they can no longer spam main from main anymore, right? Like, it's not really an option to just sit over here and try and spam from main. So yeah, that's amazing. Um, the attacker win rate possibly will drop down to something like 45%, as we said. And hopefully it's not further than that. But essentially, defenders are now going to receive such a massive boost that if your team becomes very defensively oriented, I mean mollies, I mean stall capability and stuff like that, being able to stall opponents massively and make it a lot harder for them to push through chokes with trips and mollies and traps. Sorry. You essentially will most likely win defense possibly up to 75. Oh, whoops. Up to 75% of the time. Yes. It actually could be that drastic. And I just hope that that actually doesn't stick, or that my vision of what's going to happen is not going to be this severe, because now you need to play, oh, whoops. Now you need to play on site, push into enemy territory, hold these wonky angles, and try and smoke for site control and not for for going to main and playing on spike, because that's just going to be how you are supposed to play the game now. Or even you might want to push past these smokes together and try and trade yourselves or trade each other against opponents, right? It might actually end up being this kind of meta where you just keep aggressing as attackers because you cannot take a break. This will kill the entire meta over how to play the game, and will introduce this as a very viable strategy, even in the pro scene, which, trust me, will not be fun. Because this defies everything that we have known about the tactical shooter called Valorant. So we're just gonna have to wait and see whenever the patch comes out if I'm if I'm over dramatic over the entire thing. I just hope it's not gonna be that severe. I just hope it's not gonna be so insane. But right now, the ping system nerf is the most uncalled for nerf in the history of Valorant. We can go back to the shorty nerf, the classic nerf, and all those. We can say, yeah, they were kind of warranted. The bulky nerf was warranted, yeah. And even though I want like something like I don't know, a shorty buff, something like that, something simple. I guess we got the ping nerf, the ping system nerf. So we will just have to wait and see how things will go, and hopefully, just hopefully, I am over dramatic and everything will actually be quite perfect. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I look forward to your opinions, look forward to your judgment, and maybe you guys see something different, and hopefully we can actually see eye to eye. And hopefully this is not going to ruin the game in the pro scene in the way that I think. Thank you for watching the video. You don't need to like, you don't need to subscribe, even though it helps. Do it only if you actually think I deserve it. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. Enjoy your day and have a wonderful night.